Welcome to the Multithreaded Income Podcast, the definitive podcast for savvy professionals who refuse to be bottlenecked by a single revenue stream. I'm your host, Kevin Griffin, and in this space, we explore, dissect, and analyze the strategies that turn your expertise into multiple optimized income streams. If you believe that your knowledge and skills should be leveraged in more ways than just one, you're in the right place. Now, in each episode, I talk to folks just like you and me who are exploring multi-threaded income on their own terms. Don't forget to sign up with us on social media for updates, exclusive content, and to just continue this conversation. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with my guest today, Giorgi Dalakishvili. George, how are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Hanging in there. I am very happy to have you on the show, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be really interested to learn a little bit about what you're doing out there to have multiple threads of income. Now, I know we had the chance to chat before hitting the record button, but I like to ask all of our guests to tell us your origin story. Let's go all the way back to a much younger George. And how did you get started in tech and software development?
Yeah. So when I was at school, I always liked mathematics and other technical, but I did not want to go full time for math, so I decided to go for something in the middle that was between mathematics and more applied stuff. Computer science fitted that middle, and that's why I decided to go to the university for computer science. And after that, when I started learning programming and building some small projects, what I liked mostly is that I was building mostly user graphical user interface applications. And what I liked mostly is that I could see the result of my coding very quickly, do some little coding, run the application with.
Excellent. I think a lot of people have a very similar story, having gone to university for computer science. I know I'm one of them. I share that story as well. So now, our discussion earlier, you are saying you have a full-time job and you do a little bit of freelancing on the side. I think before we talk about freelancing, tell us a little bit about your day job, as much as you're allowed to tell us. What do you do every day for work?
Yeah, for my day job, I work at Space International. It's a banking company. It has nothing to do with space actually. And at this company, I work as a team lead, and we have the branch branchless bank running in two countries, and I work as a team lead in one of the teams, and I'm responsible for building the APIs and endpoints for our merchants and various external partners who would like to integrate with our products and offers. I work as a team lead in that team. I do some coding at my day job as well, but mostly it's doing code reviews, making some technical decisions, doing interviews with candidates, and so on. So freelancing helps me to stay sharp on the programming skills and to stay up to date with all the latest developments and all the frameworks and new libraries that are released very frequently. So it's a good way to stay up to date for in terms of coding skills.
Well, let's build on that a little bit more because I found that in my own consulting that having separate small gigs gives me the opportunity to learn skills I might not necessarily be able to learn on my main gig. Do you find that happens quite a bit that you'll do some work as a freelancer? You'll practice a skill or pick up a technology you hadn't picked up before, and you get to bring that into your day job and I guess kind of act like the superhero, everything there is to know.
Yeah, the freelancing projects definitely help you to learn some of the skills and libraries and other technologies that you don't use in your day job. You may not have the opportunity to bring those to your full-time job, but even if you don't bring them, it helps you to basically you can at your day job you don't get much freedom to choose what you will be working on and what technologies you will be using, but when you are freelancing you can you have all the freedom. You can choose the project that you want to work on, and you can select the projects that you like. And if you don't like the technology or the tech stack of the project, you no one forces you to work on that project. So only apply to those projects where you like the tech stack, and it will be enjoyable and as well as brings the additional income that you are
Let's talk about the additional income. Would you? I'm assuming that the doing the freelance work helps build up a nest egg. It helps pay for things that your day job normally wouldn't pay for. How has having that additional income helped you or and your family?
it's so in my case, because I live outside of the United States, and so it may not apply to all of the listeners, but in my case the rates that the freelancing projects pay are a lot more higher than the local market pays, at least in my case. So the side income can become quite substantial and gives you more freedom compared to when you have limited or less income. Having the freelance projects also keeps you calm that in case something happens to your day job, you can take on more projects, and you don't have to necessarily start looking for full-time job.
Let's shift gears. I have another conversation I want to come back to, but I'm interested because you have the full time job and you have the work on the side. How do you juggle the time and energy between those? And I'm assuming you also have personal life that you have to juggle as well. Do you have any tips for how you manage that?
Yeah, yeah, it's very important to be very good at time management, because it's very easy to become overworked, and if you work too much then you become stressed, and it affects your performance after that. You may have some health related or sleep related problems. So it's very important to keep a good balance between all your work and also personal time and keeping rested. What has helped me is that try to take breaks between your day job and your freelance projects. Like if your day job ends at 5 or 7 or whatever, take a 2 hour or 3 hour break, take a walk, or read a book, or play with kids, or whatever you like to do in your free time, and uh, start working on freelance projects once you are rested and you are a bit full with energy. So don't code repeatedly for the whole day from morning until midnight, because you might be able to do that for a couple of days and weeks, or maybe even months, but eventually you will get tired, and then you won't be even able to work.
Let's talk about how do you find your freelancing projects? I think that's the number one question I get from anyone who's looking to go out on their own or find something on the side is how do you find that work? And I know you have a couple different ways to advertise yourself, but how do you find your work?
Yeah, nowadays I mostly find my freelance projects from a website called TopTal. I think it's a well-known platform in the freelancing world. Previously, I mainly worked on Upwork. On TopTal, you can't join the platform without going through some interviews. Once you go through these interviews and they give you access to the platform, then you can see the jobs and you can apply to the jobs. And sometimes you get hired, sometimes you don't get hired. TopTal, the idea behind TopTal is that they provide, so the name itself is top talent, and they provide already screened engineers to the companies. So on TopTal there are more, usually there are, I don't know how to say this properly, but better clients or more serious clients. What also helps is to, so on both platforms, you when you create your profile, you list your work experience, you list your projects, and so you create a portfolio on your profile on these websites, and the companies or clients who are looking to hire developers, they can see your profile, review the profile. So try to spend a few days on your profile and make it look good and interesting, so that they want to work with you.
How often on these different sites are you going out to look for the opportunities or are companies or individuals coming to you directly to get work done?
Yes, on these platforms, yes, you both ways. It works both ways. You can apply to the jobs, or the clients can invite you to the job, and it basically, in my case, it depends how much interested I am in finding a new project. Sometimes it's a period when I want to take a break and I'm not actively looking. And during that time, if someone invites me, then I go look into the project. But mostly it's me sending proposals for the jobs that I see. Apart from these platforms, I also have a couple of cases where the future clients reached out to me directly on LinkedIn. I don't remember anyone on reaching out on other in other way. So sometimes, yes, the clients find me on LinkedIn and they reach out directly.
I know we also talked about a little bit of your open source work, which is probably another thing you do on top of full-time job and freelancing. you want to take a moment to talk about some of the open source work you do. And I think you alluded to it. It works really well as a portfolio, just showing people what you're capable of doing. And has that helped you with any of your freelance gigs?
Yes. So for my open source projects, when I started working on them, I did not necessarily have in mind to build them as my portfolio, but in the end, they were helpful. They turned out helpful in for my portfolio, and I started including them in my portfolio. I have had a few clients who saw my portfolio on their own, and they decided to reach out to me and uh, propose me to work on some of their projects.
That's awesome. I think that's a great piece of advice for folks that are relatively new to tech. Is open source is a great way to show what you know, what you can work on, and if folks are looking for that skill set, you have it on display. Anyone can go see what you're doing, and hopefully come hire you for some work if they like what you're working on. So, last thing, or one of the last things, if someone's out there looking to start a freelancing side gig, George, what advice would you give to that person?
My advice would be to try to promote your personal brand as much as possible. As you mentioned, if you have ideas for open source projects, even if it doesn't become popular or a well-known project, or even if it's something that already exists and you just want to build it to show your skills, just build something and put it in your GitHub or somewhere so that other people can see what you are capable of doing.
Awesome. That's all great advice. George, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. How do people find you if they're looking for work or looking to just chat about what you talked about here?
Yeah, yes, people can reach out to me directly on Twitter. My uh, inbox is open to messages. People can also find me on my personal website. It's giorgi.dev, and there is a contact form there as well. Feel free to fill the form and reach out to me directly.
Oh, well, we'll make sure we put links to everything in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to George, I know he would appreciate it. I've really appreciated this conversation, George. Hopefully our listeners have as well. And it really goes to show that just a little bit of work on the side, we can take our talents and have multiple threads of income, and you don't
Right.
have to devote your entire life to a side hustle. But I'm very thankful for having you on the show today.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Multi-Threaded Income Podcast. I've been your host, Kevin Griffin. Please reach out to us on social media at MT Income, wherever you get your socials from. And feel free to join one of our upcoming challenges at multithreadedincome.com. We'll see you next time.